So here we have 30 little quick drawings that I'm probably going to bind together and make a little sketchbook out of. If I do that, it'll be the first time I've ever done it, so I'll do a little tutorial as I go, and you can see how well or not I do. So these are 30 sketches, 30 drawings of boats. So this is a reference picture very kindly sent to me by Flo Snook, who is an artist who I follow on Instagram. She's got some lovely work. I'll try and remember to put a link below, but I'm getting really bad at remembering that. As you can see, I've splashed a bit of ink around. This is all ink. This is just simple pink ink. It's very Dr. Seuss. Yellow, and then some diluted black ink. Anyway, it's nice, just simple. So day one, it'll be a reference drawing. I'll put a reference drawing up somewhere. Okay, so day two, actually I'll put the reference drawing about there. I hope this is focusing okay. This is one of my little photos of a boat on the Tyne. Yeah, so this again is ink. It's a lot of these I've tried to use ink for. And then just for some darker values, I've just used some black, which perhaps is a bit too dark there, I think. But anyway, it's quite a fun one. Now, I wasn't so keen on this one, really. I don't think it worked. It was a bit of a scruffy drawing, but it ended up being a real sketch. And I used some thicker lines around here to sort of try and pull that forward. I actually quite like that. That's quite neat. So yeah. Now I'm going to probably lose track of my days here. This was a little tug. Again, just using some ink, and you can see I've used some white gel pen. I've gone for some quite chunky lines on this. I like chunky lines. I like big, bold marks. I'm not a big fan of delicate art, I'll be honest. A white gel pen for some of the water there. I've used, and you can see I've used the same blue in the water as I've used in the sky, because obviously there's a reflection. And I've just simply done some dry brush drag techniques to try and get some water texture in there. This again is ink. It's a bit sort of bonkers colour scheme, but I quite like doing that sometimes. Ink does some lovely things. I mean, you can see here in the corner, there's some really interesting things happening with the colours. And again, I've tried to use a simple sort of cross-hatching technique here. It's a bit of a mess, but it's quite fun. I really didn't like the colour combination here, and I also think the boat looks like it's floating a bit. It was quite a weird drawing that. Somehow it didn't coalesce. A few people had problems with this one. So that's probably not one of my favourites. I quite like this one. It's very different. There's some interesting colours going on there. That's again some ink. This is all ink. This is very minimal, as you can see again. I've left that unpainted background. You know, I think it's really, the human eye sort of fills that in, so actually you don't need to paint the whole thing. But yeah, again, it's a very simple sort of side-on view. This is probably one of my favourite ones. I quite like these sea silhouettes. You end up with a very simple sky. You block this in, and then again a dry brush. This is very, very textured paper, so if you get a dry brush and you just run it along the top, it breaks up and you get this lovely texture. Could perhaps have gone a bit darker in that shadow area there, and you can see it's bloomed a bit, but yeah, it's quite fun. Like that. This was quite a hard drawing actually. Again, it's the same sort of technique. I've used a bit of dry brush, but I've dragged down to create some reflections in the water. I've actually blocked the background in dark there, simply for the fact that I didn't want to paint these areas, and the wheelhouse was white. So against the white, it didn't really stand out. So if you block that in, it brings the whole of the ship forward. It's a dredger in Whitby Harbour, don't you know? So now you know these things, you'll feel much happier in your life. This is a sketch that I've actually done a few times, and I've sold quite a few versions of this. the originals, which is in a way a bit sad because they were some of my favourite drawings. I think this is a really good example of how actually you don't have to do anything complicated for it to be a really fun and quite attractive image. I think this is nice. It's really nice. It's super simple. It doesn't really have to be a lot more complicated than that. I would say that perhaps some of the line work, I don't know. It's alright. It's alright. You know, it's alright. Again, I was using my Octopus inks here. Now, the colours that I have for these inks don't necessarily sit that well together. I wanted to make sure that I actually painted outside of these leaves to try and, I don't know, just make it a bit more abstract. I don't think that's wholly successful. The boat, I think unless there's some reflection under the boat, it can often look like the boat's flying or sort of sitting above the water. So I'm not so keen on that one. Again, another really super quick sketch of a classic sailing boat. I don't know where this is, but yeah, fun, a bit splashy. Actually, looking at that colour shouldn't be the same. That staysail there shouldn't be the same as the main gaff sail there because they blur together. Anyway, fuzzy. A sweet little trawler on the beach here. I think that could read as water, so maybe I should have some different coloured paint there. And this sky is is something that I often have a play with. Instead of doing solid wet in wet skies, I quite like to do some quite abstract shapes. And this, I've literally gone now, bits of this I think are really interesting. And I think this part here, I mean, if you were to actually, that bit I love. I don't know why. I think it's just the confidence of the mark making, maybe. This was a really mad little, this is Sally Pope's picture from Australia. I think this is a little ferry in Australia, if I remember rightly, in Sydney. I love these colours. This orange and yellow together are absolutely, they're like fire. I mean, look at that there. Really super. I'm not so keen on the drawing, but a quickie. This is an interesting one. The sky's been done wet in wet, and then I've just used a bright yellow here. Now what I've done is I put as a resistive material, i.e. masking fluid, all over the boat here. But in my infinite wisdom, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. I forgot that this Khadi paper, if you put masking fluid on and you try and peel it off, what it does is it separates the top layer and it tears the paper. So now, it was literally afterwards, I was, oh, you bloody idiot. So now I'm stuck with a drawing that's got masking fluid on top of it. Now, it's actually quite weirdly interesting. It's got a sort of glossy finish. Yeah, it's a bit different. Anyway, you can just see there. So I decided instead of beating myself up about it, I will just yet again learn that lesson, which you'd think I'd have learned now. Probably 4 times I've done this on this kind of paper, but anyway, you can teach an old dog to sit at something. Right. This is so simple. It's literally a wash, a less concentrated wash, some dry brush, and quite a poor picture of quite a poor drawing of a boat. But literally quarter of an hour sitting down and doing that drawing for quarter of an hour is like, I guess some people get the same vibes from going for a run or whatever it is you do that makes you happy and relaxed. It could be watching telly or chasing a monkey through a swimming pool made of custard. You know, there's some very strange people out there. That's bloody important to me. This is a nice little picture of some of the boat houses that are made from upturned boats in Northumberland, and sort of fishermen's huts. Some nice textures here. I think actually weirdly this is probably a bit too small. It's a bit too fiddly, but you do have a very delicious little wheelbarrow there and some quite nice foliage on that side. So I think that's quite successful. Again, I'm trying to do some different things with the sky. Instead of it being a solid colour or swirls, I'm trying to do some more angular mark making. It's quite fun. I think this is quite organic, so it's quite nice to have a bit of contrast there. I like that. Again, selective colouring. I've just chosen the colourful things to actually fill, but then when I looked at it after that, I noticed it lacked a bit of form in the shape. So I've used some grey to try and show some shadow to bring out the form. I think it reads okay. If you follow me and look at all my videos, you'll probably see a full-size version of this. This was actually almost like a test piece for a bigger version tutorial that I've done here on YouTube, where I actually do all this in one ink, a single ink drawing, and it worked out pretty well. But so again here, just dry brush technique on the water, some vaguely wet in wet for the sky. And although I do have a bit of a pet hate for seagulls, not generally, I wouldn't wish them any specific harm, but people who put seagulls in pictures, I think it's just so incredibly twee, so I did it myself because I think it looks nice. I am nothing if not contrary. Right. So this little tug is quite cute. It was quite a quick drawing, quite scruffy. It could probably do with some thicker line work around it for my tastes, but sometimes it's nice to let the sort of drawings breathe. You can see there's some really nice sort of wet in wet stuff happening here. And some little splashes just for a bit of joie de vivre, whatever that means, something to do with trifle, I think. So yeah, a scruffy little sketch here. This is the beautiful sunny corner, just upriver from Malpass. We were lucky enough to do some sailing and walking around here last summer. It's a beautiful spot. Lots of sort of slightly knackered old boats, and a great playground for the kids. Anyway, so quite a basic little sketch, not fancy. This is another tug. Now I've tried to do something slightly different here with the water. I think what I've done is I've gone in and I've cross-hatched some reflection in, but then added some water in afterwards, watercolouring afterwards. I don't know how successful it is. When I was doing these challenges, I kept going on the back side of pages and having to do it again. Anyway, that's another thing. So yeah, again, a super quick little sketch of this boat in Paris. I like some of the water. This is watercolour. I like some of the mixture of tones and things in the paving stones on the front. Some of the boat's a bit scrappy, but quite nice. I don't know about that. Anyway, I think this is one that sort of got a bit out of hand in a way. I mean, the sky's quite mental. The perspective in the boat is really quite hard to draw, and I've really doubled down on the line thicknesses. It's a bit confused, I think, as an image generally, but it was fun to do, and I love this slightly over pigmented ultramarine, French ultramarine. Now that's started to granulate a little bit. French ultramarine, there's lots of different types of French ultramarine, but it is one of those pigments that will granulate, particularly with other colours. And often the reason why I use it to mix greys is because I like quite a granulated grey, because most things you see in our built environment, if they are grey, they tend to be granular in texture. Maybe, I don't know, maybe not. But there is two types of French ultramarine that I have. I have a normal one, this is Daniel Smith colours, and I have a fine one. Now the fine one doesn't granulate much, the normal one does granulate quite a lot. So I keep that. I don't have that in my palette all the time. I keep it in a separate drawer, special drawer all its own. Anyway, who's bored? I'll stop talking now. Yeah, this is obviously Venice. This is the Venice gravy boat. And the recycling boat is delivering gravy. And yeah, not really a lot to say about that. A really super little, simple drawing of a boat and its reflection. I don't think the reflection's quite right because it's a bit bigger than that. Anyway, yeah. I quite like this one. This is a boat up in Scotland, an old trawler that's been abandoned. I've drawn it a few times and never done a version I like. I do like this though. There's some really fun little splashy textures here. And the boat, that bit there is really nice on the boat, the rusty cabin. I don't know what I was thinking with that blue there. Have you seen it? On that mast there, it's really, really random. Anyway. So this was a really hard one, as you can see from the reference drawing that's maybe going to pop up there. It's a very, very hard drawing, and it wasn't. I tried it a couple of times and decided just to do a quick version because, frankly, life is fleeting. Okay, another little fishing boat on the Fal, I think this was, or maybe on the Halford. Yeah, on the Halford. One of my pictures. Some nice reflections on the water, sort of mixture of boat and background colour. Yeah, simple enough. And then the final one was actually, weirdly, could have been, I think this could have been a big picture. This could have been at least A4 because it was just too textured to put in something this small. But yeah, as you can see, I've used some crosshatch technique here. Basically, I sketched it and then added a little bit of colour in, almost as a bit of an afterthought, but it's pretty nice. So yeah, as you can see, 30 odd of those. That's probably one of my favourites, but I love Flo Snook's iconic actual artwork of that. Do check out her artwork on Insta or wherever she's posting. It's quite good fun. I like that. So what we're going to do is probably bind those, sew them and make a little sketchbook out of them, and then next year, I'm not quite sure what I might do next year for BOATOBER 2024, but we'll see. So if you fancy a drawing challenge and you fancy a little sketch every day for a month, and it is a challenge because sometimes you really don't have the motivation, and other days you feel like you could do 10 in a row, but you can't because you've got to wait for it to be posted every day. So yeah, thanks for joining me for this. I hope you didn't find it too dull. And I'm off to chase a monkey through custard. So ta-ra.